Now let's discuss line of sight. LOS affects everything you do, from radio communications to who you can shoot at, even to urban warfare. Yes, there's urban warfare in the game, believe it or not. The game has everything. It's the best $50 you've ever spent. Line of sight is naturally, under good conditions and night conditions, available to all adjacent cards. So this guy here can see here, 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 and obviously here. So all of the adjacent cards he has line of sight to. It's when we want to go away farther that the line of sight becomes tricky. So let's review. So if this guy wants to see this guy, he's more than one card away. Obviously, line of sight affects the adjacent cards, but once you move farther out, you need the borders of the card to be white in order to see all the way through it. So this open fields, for example, has white here and white here, therefore establishing a clean line of sight all the way through it into this other card. So if the borders were not all white, let's say Orchard Grove, now the border here is not white, therefore line of sight is blocked, and he is limited to only seeing this card. This other card becomes invisible to him. So now you've established only one card adjacent of line of sight. That's because of the borders on this card. Note the borders on this card don't matter because he's standing on this card. The borders on this card are the ones that matter. So what if you have a white border on the left and a dark border on the right? So now notice the new card, Hedgerow, has white borders on the top and the bottom, but dark borders on the left and the right. Therefore, he does not have line of sight over to here. However, if you changed the arrangement and you had this card here and this other card up here, now he has line of sight through the top card up to the next card up because of the white borders. Here's a card, Hedgerow, that has white on both sides but dark on the top and the bottom. He has line of sight to this other card because of the white borders here and here. If one of them was dark and one of them was white, it would block line of sight. They both have to be white to see through them. Here we have white border on the bottom and white border on the top, but dark on the left and the right. Because it's light white here and here, he has a line of sight completely through here to the other guy up here. So now you have a line of sight from bottom to top. If you switch the arrangement, now you have dark border and dark border. You cannot see through this card. Now you have dark border and dark border. You cannot see through this card going up. However, you have light border and light border. You could see through this card going across. And again, the border over here on this card doesn't matter. The border over here on this card doesn't matter. For purposes of line of sight across, only the border here and here matters. Your maximum line of sight is 3 across. You have your origin card, 1, 2, 3. That is your maximum line of sight across all conditions. I can establish line of sight from this card to this card because I have a white border, white border, white border, white border. Therefore, I can see through this card and I can see through this card, making a clear line of sight from here all the way over to the maximum line of sight, which is over here. Again, 3 cards, 1, 2, 3 is your maximum line of sight. Now, if any one of the borders from here to here to here to here is dark, line of sight is broken. Now I have line of sight from here all the way light border, to here, but not over to here because the dark border here and here blocks it. So now my line of sight is limited to just over here. The same thing applies on the diagonal. I have line of sight from this card to this card because I have a light border here and a light border here, establishing a clean line of sight all the way to this other card. Line of sight only goes in a straight line. You have to establish a straight line from here all the way up across, either at a 45-degree angle, left, right, to the side, etc. It needs to be a straight line. I do not have line of sight from here over to here. That is not a straight line. It's going up here, but then it's curving over and going to this card. He does not have line of sight to him, regardless of what border. If you're elevated, you get line of sight regardless of border up to the maximum of 3 cards. You can see right here, I'm on a hill. There's 2 types of elevation. One is a hill, and the other is the upper story of a building. So let's do a hill. If I'm on a hill, I now have free line of sight to the maximum distance because I am elevated. This goes in reverse as well. If he is sitting on the hill, this guy has line of sight over to him because he is elevated. So line of sight is reciprocal. If he can see him, then he can see him as well. Regardless of card border, the elevation gives you a free line of sight as far as you want to see. Certain cards support buildings. You can see here with the building icon. When you have a building at certain cover, you have what's called an upper story. An upper story is now an elevated platform, and like a hill, that allows you line of sight to the maximum distance that you can go with the line of sight. So the 2 types of elevation you have are a hill and an upper story. Any limited visibility thing like nighttime, fog, rain, tornado, hurricane, anything that limits visibility reduces your line of sight to, again, only adjacent cards. You have certain conditions like illumination. Illumination is fantastic, as well as incoming, airstrikes, etc. Well, airstrikes are not fantastic. Illumination, that's fantastic. Illumination and airstrikes, anything that is fire and brimstone, causes a lot of light, will allow people to see in, but you can't see out. The light, smoke, whatever, blinds you, prevents you from seeing out. Other people can see you, but you cannot see them. Standard line of sight rules for elevation apply at this point. People can see that the card is lit up on fire or the card is glowing in the dark, but you cannot see out. So your visibility is again limited to 1 card over. Incoming airstrikes and smoke block line of sight. Even though I have white borders on both sides, and I should be able to trace line of sight across, the smoke is preventing this guy from seeing this guy, as well as incoming is preventing this guy from seeing this guy. Incoming and smoke block line of sight out of the card, as well as block line of sight across the card. So quiz time. Does this guy have line of sight to this guy? Yes. Both borders are white, therefore you have a clear line of sight across. What about now? No, he does not have line of sight to him. This card blocks it because of the dark borders. Even if one border was dark and one was white, he still blocks line of sight. How about now? Does he have line of sight? No, he doesn't. Even though we have a white border here, we have a dark border on this side. Therefore, this dark border blocks line of sight across to this other card. How about now? Yes, he has line of sight to him. Almost always, with a few exceptions, you have line of sight to any adjacent card, whether it be here, 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 or here, or here, or here, 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 here. As long as it is adjacent, you have line of sight. How about now? Does he have line of sight to him? No. Even though you have white borders on both sides of the middle card, giving it a line of sight, the smoke blocks line of sight across. How about now? Does he have line of sight to him? Yes, for two reasons. One, you have white borders, therefore giving line of sight across, as well as you have a hill. So even if we swap this card out for the woods, he still has a clear line of sight because he is on an elevated platform of a hill, therefore giving him line of sight across to a maximum distance of 3. So even if he was over here, he would still have line of sight because of the hill, even though it's 1, 2, 3, and we have dark borders here and there across. How about now? Does he have line of sight to him? Yes, he's on a building card, and he is in the upper story cover. He now has line of sight across because of the elevation. Even though this border in the middle card here is dark, he still has clear line of sight because he's on an elevated platform. How about now? Does he have line of sight to him? No. Line of sight needs to be in a straight line. If he was here or if he was way up here, then he would have a good line of sight. However, he is not in a straight line. He is sort of a crooked line, and therefore he does not have line of sight. How about now? Who has line of sight to whom? Well, this is one of the weird conditions. Because of the incoming, and you have fire and brimstone on this particular card that's blinding him, and he does not have line of sight to him. However, he has a clear line of sight across because he can see the fire and brimstone on this particular card. How about now? Does he have line of sight to him? I don't know.